huge news coming in for Xenoverse 3, and we're not talking about the trailer or the gameplay showcase. We're talking about Bio Androids and Supreme Kais being amongst the new races coming to Xenoverse 3. A 50-50 split on the single player and the multiplayer experience, and cross-platform play with all systems at launch. Now let's dive into the full details of this interview with the game's producer Hirano-san as I break down what this all means for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3. Hello everyone, it's me again, the Dojo here again, back to some more Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3, and you can actually see the title of the article is Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3 splits development 50-50 between single-player story and online sandbox, producer tells. Now this obviously means that Xenoverse 3, more than the other games, is going to have a much greater focus on both story and multiplayer. You guys might remember that Xenoverse 1 and 2 had a much greater focus on the story mode and no focus for the multiplayer until, the game was completely done, and several years later when they continued to add DLC, that's when they gave slightly more of a damn about the multiplayer. But this time off rip, they know how important the multiplayer is for Xenoverse overall. They know that people just live on that ever since the game ran out of single player content, and they're focusing big on the future of the game because again, they know obviously playing with your friends or playing against your friends is one of the easiest ways to keep games alive and show constant support for games. Again, Fortnite's the best example of this. All you have to do is update a game with love and care and people just keep playing it. And that is the approach that they are going for with, because at Summer Games Fest 2026, we sat down with Bandai Namco Entertainment's producer Masayuki Hirano to learn more about Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3, the new installment in the action RPG series that was announced earlier this year with a planned debut of 2027. The game is set in the age 1000, 148 years after the events of Xenoverse 2, and the story takes place in West City, which has grown into a major hub in its future setting. As of previous Xenoverse entries, you'll create your own custom hero and join the ranks of the Great Saiyan Squad, fighting alongside both familiar and new allies as events in this new era unfolds. A new trailer has also gone live, by the way, introducing Bulma and Gamma-1. Throughout the game, players will meet a cast of original characters making their debut in the franchise, including Brett, Lilica, Rom, and Tap. And I'm only just realizing that he's called Tap now because his name might stand for tap water, which means he's literally the drink. It's really funny how the Vegeta-themed Saiyan guy is the drink. I'm shocked they even made that reference. So the first major question he asked Serrano is, what is the significance of the setting of the game in age 1000? Why go with the specific year rather than say 300 or 500 years after the earlier title? See, this is how you can tell that the interviewer doesn't know ball, because age 1000 not only is that a cool number, but it's reference to Dragon Ball Online. We all know this now, obviously, but the interviewer didn't know at the time, clearly. So Hirano says, first off, I cannot overstate Akira Toriyama's sensei's immense involvement in development of age 1000 itself. From the overall worldview to the new character designs, he collaborated with us on almost every aspect, laying the foundation for the game's sandbox. We wanted to jump into the future because Xenoverse 1 and Xenoverse 2 focused heavily on traveling to the past to fix history, so for the third entry we wanted to look forward. Xenoverse has always been about delivering a completely new Dragon Ball experience that the people haven't seen before. Setting it hundreds of years into the future provides an entirely unknown territory for the fans and for us as creators to explore. So this again does confirm that obviously Xenoverse 3 is going for a much more original take on the story. Now they most likely will probably still have some version of the regular Dragon Ball game story, Saiyan Saga, Frieza Saga, Cell Saga, Buu Saga, and then the Goku Black Arc, because they usually don't really adapt Battle of Gods or Resurrection F, and especially for Tournament of Power. But yeah, Xenoverse 3 will most likely still have some way to do that story, because again, I do want to remind you guys, Xenoverse 2 does retread the original Dragon Ball stories again, but Xenoverse 2 did also add Xenoverse 1 story, which is again just another retread of the original Z story, so it wouldn't be too shocking to say that Xenoverse 3 probably just adds Xenoverse 2 story mode, maybe not at launch, but sometime later in the game's life. And yes, can you talk about new technology that's progressed over the universe for hundreds of years? To clarify, I mean the actual in-universe technology of age 1000. And Hirano says, I can't reveal everything yet, but obviously if you look at the gameplay trailers, you'll see soul switching and soul assist. The future world has progressed significantly, and there is a concrete logical backbone to why things are happening the way they are. These mechanical shifts tie directly into why original characters are swapping with iconic roster fighters and why your custom player avatar is interacting with this world. A lot of these unique ideas came straight from Toriyama Sensei, and they serve as major narrative beats you will uncover. Ooh. Here we go. How central is the multiplayer focus for Xenoverse 3? I would say it's a clean 50-50 split between the single-player narrative and the online multiplayer suite. Xenoverse occupies a very unique genre space because it has a definitive, highly engaging campaign, but also functions as a massive online sandbox to tackle with friends. Both sides of the game received an equal amount of deep focus and development resources. Now again, I don't want to glaze myself too high, but I do want to remind you guys that Bandai Namco devs actually do see the amount of people who upload videos on both, not just Xenoverse, but on Breakers as well when it comes to online aspects of these games. So again, I'm not saying that Bandai Namco seeing me in particular, and I'm gonna give myself full credit for it, but they know YouTubers like me, Burko, Rhymestyle, Siriax, Rakudo, Fox, Slow Plays. They know all of us play these games and post videos on this game online, and they know that we've been doing this for years, so they know the potential in the player base staying on the game or being invested in the game exclusively just through online PvP. That's why, again, the PvP didn't have too much focus originally in Xenoverse 2, but later they started to do a bunch of PvP-centric updates, buffs and nerfs, etc, and it's probably why they're giving another massive focus to the online aspect of this, because even Dragon Ball The Breakers taught them a lot about how to design a game online so that way it lasts longer. Now, obviously, Breakers isn't the best game online, but it probably did, widen their worldview or their knowledge of how they could design online games. So, again, even if you guys hate Breakers, think of the positive. Breakers did make the devs smarter and better when it comes to designing multiplayer aspects of these games. Can players take part in the main story mode seamlessly online with their friends, or is that strictly reserved for a separate multiplayer mission? And the main story mode naturally is a dedicated single-player experience. Okay, I thought they were going to surprise me. But much like in Xenoverse 1 and 2, the campaign is focused entirely on the Great Saiyan Squad, the Time Patrol dynamics, and your custom avatar's unique journey and exploring the narrative. However, there is an entirely separate massive pool of co-op and competitive missions specifically tailored for the online environment. So obviously these are parallel quests. We already know what that is. Oh, what can you tell us about character creation and customization upgrades this time around? Character customization is the absolute core pillar of the franchise. Players want to express exactly who they want to be when entering the Dragon Ball universe. So to facilitate that, the range of customization options in Xenoverse 3 is significantly wider than in the first two games. And I do obviously believe this because, again, not only is this going to have all the customization from Xenoverse 1 and 2, most likely, it's going to just, copy-paste all of the options, because we've seen some of the hairstyles and some of the faces and some of the eye designs make a return in the most recent Xenoverse 3 trailer. But they're also obviously going to be adding new stuff, and then stuff from Dragon Ball The Breakers as well. So the customization potential for this game is absolutely nuts. Oh, this time we want to also accommodate highly specific combat designs. If you want to play a long-range zoning style like Frieza, an aggressive close-up brawler like Goku, or use unique team tactics reminiscent of the Ginyu Force, the suite is built to support these individual preferences. Now that's very interesting to see, because Xenoverse 1 and 2 kind of don't have these playstyles. Maybe you could argue Xenoverse 1 has these playstyles. Like Xenoverse 1, it was possible to be a key spammer just because of the infinite key of Super Saiyan. But in Xenoverse 2, everyone is kind of a basic attacker, and then there's something else on top of that because of Xenoverse 2's much more like heavy emphasis on close range gameplay, mostly because of stuff like stamina breaks. So it's actually interesting to see that we'll go back to having playstyle sets. Now again, Xenoverse 3, from the gameplay alone, looks to be way more simple than Xenoverse 2. And again, simple isn't a bad thing. Obviously we'll have to wait, see when the game comes out before we can really decide if we want to like this truly or not. But I don't have any issue with Xenoverse 3 being more simple than the other games. It definitely looks more balanced than Xenoverse 2 already. So I'm a big fan of that already. But yeah, it's actually interesting to see that they actually do mention, because Frieza, I would not call Frieza a long-range zoning style character in Xenoverse 1 or 2. His only long-range zoning move would be Death Beam and Death Wave, and those aren't really zoning moves. Those are just combo enders. Aggressive close-up brawlers like Goku. I mean, the only aggressive close-up brawling moves that Goku really has is like Meteor Strike and Super God Fist. Other than that, he's using Super Kamehameha, Super Spirit Bomb, Burst Kamehameha all the time. And team attacks, we know, are obviously going to be somewhat important because the teams are bigger in this game than they were in Xenoverse 2, being 4 characters instead of 3. So that's going to make parallel quests way more interesting, because they are going to be far more chaotic now that you have a whole extra fighter with you. How many different fighter styles and character races have you showcased so far? Can you tease how many more plans for launch? When we initially mapped out development, we experimented with a traditional subtraction style system, meaning choosing strict locked character classes that limit what you can do. However, we realized that in the world of Dragon Ball, every single character ultimately wants to become the ultimate multi-talented warrior. That is true. Because of that, we shifted completely to an addition style system. Instead of locking you to narrow archetypes, players have absolute freedom to dynamically swap different skills, attributes, and styles in and out, empowering them to craft whatever type of custom warrior they can imagine. Okay, so this doesn't necessarily say that we'll be able to equip every moveset from every single playable character, but it does kind of open up the idea of that's what they're aiming for. So that's really cool to see. Again, my theory is that most likely when the game comes out, not every moveset will be available, so that way they can at least make some of them DLC. Because when this game comes out, the only DLC they'll be able to make is on the Moro arc stuff, compared to Xenoverse 2, where it could just keep making DLC because the anime hadn't actually ended yet. So I'm actually very curious to see how they do this. They'll probably do as many like hype skills at launch, and then eventually they'll add more like, oh, Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta's moveset for custom characters. Black Frieza's moveset for custom characters when the anime gets around to him. You know what I mean. Does a custom character's height or physical size affect their movement speed or maximum health? Wow, it's very interesting that they brought that up, because no one even acknowledges that right now. Like, if you ask most players that right now, they don't even remember that. No, physical dimensions do not impact your baseline stats or attributes this time around. Boys, You can make thick characters and they can be Ki Blasters. Now we've done it. No longer do your characters have to be skinny twigs just to shoot Ki Blast. You can now have thick Saiyans and Margins spamming Kamehameha. We've done it. Oh, this also means that you can actually have skinny Saiyans now as well, because everyone makes their Saiyans super buff so they can get the most basic attack out of them as possible. But now you can actually have skinny Saiyans and have their stats not be affected. So that's really, really cool. Being physically massive doesn't automatically make a fighter slow, and being tiny doesn't mean you're a fragile speedster. Thank the Lord. Characters break these rules constantly. We wanted to completely separate cosmetic visual expression from gameplay stats, giving players total freedom to look how they want without worrying about optimization penalties. I think that is fair. I think that's valid. If a player wants to completely change their character's appearance or mechanical build down the line, they can do so freely, or will it still require gathering Dragon Balls to make a wish? Ooh, I'm actually very curious. You definitely will not have to completely delete your progress and start over from scratch just to alter your character. We have built a lot of latitude into the system to let players adjust and tweak their builds. That said, we still want your character's growth choices to carry a certain weight, pride, and sense of permanence, so it won't be entirely trivialized. Okay, he didn't say no about the Dragon Ball thing, so most likely we'll still have to collect Dragon Balls to change our stats. I think that's fine. I think that's okay. One small thing I would actually request is when you are in the character select option, I would kind of like if they did what Destiny did when it came to the characters menus, so that way people don't accidentally delete characters. Now, it's never happened to me, but I've heard stories of people accidentally deleting their characters because it's ridiculously easy to accidentally just hit X and delete your years of saved data in Xenoverse, which is just a scary thought to me, man. So I would hope that they change the system where you have to hold the button for like 10 seconds to guarantee it, because that's really hard to do an accident, right? So hopefully they change that system, because I'm scared one day it could happen to me, man. In Western communities, a very popular meme customization trend is to take an iconic hero like Vegeta and recreate him perfectly except for one addition, like giving him a gun. Will weapons like guns be available as an accessory for fighting styles in Xenoverse 3? They should be if you just pick Gamma or Jaco's fighting style, right? Custom accessories are a massive part of player identity, and we're absolutely bringing an element back from the previous games. I will honestly have to double check with the asset team to see if a sidearm accessory is specifically in the current build. They probably could do that. I think you can already equip certain outfits that have guns on them, like 17's outfit has a gun in his pocket. Jacko, I think, comes with a gun as well. You can put on Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 Super Soul and Xenoverse 2, so you can give yourself a gun as your Ki Blasts. That's really, really cool. So, turning back to multiplayer, players love a strict endgame challenge. Can we expect options to replay missions at scaled up difficulties or a higher tier challenge to be kept as separate endgame activities? Ooh. So that would be taking inspiration from, I think, a little bit of DBZ CAC and from Xenoverse, adding a normal and an easy mode to a lot of missions in the game. Our baseline missions are individually balanced for smooth progression curve. We have designed highly specific, brutal challenges for advanced play. When you step into high tier encounters, the enemy AI shifts dramatically. Bosses utilize completely unique movement patterns, advanced behavior loops, custom cinematic supers that force your squad to communicate and coordinate strategies to survive. We saw this with Broly, and I think that's absolutely sick, that they are doing like Monster Hunter World, like Safi Jiva, like Fatalis strats. I don't know, that's what I'm going to call it for now, because I love Monster Hunter, I love glazing Monster Hunter, and anything taking inspiration from my favorite game ever is only going to make me happier. With Broly Fight gave us our first look at the new soul shifting mechanic. How do you go about deciding which specific characters from the franchise history would be able to utilize soul shift? Okay. So I can't talk about the exact roster composition yet, but you can look forward to seeing characters like Future Trunks and other staples highlighted in upcoming information drops. Soul shifting is fundamentally about giving players the ultimate tool to break combat open, whether that means triggering a character-specific awakening or dynamically calling an iconic roster fighters to alter the match's rhythm. Okay, that's very interesting. I'd like to see that. Oh, they actually mentioned picking Goku here of soul shifting, and Hirano says, our core goal for the mechanic is to provide an incredibly deep array of variations. Goku is the absolute thematic anchor of this entire franchise, and in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3, the specific relationship between Goku and your custom avatar forms a massive backbone of experience. I told you. I said that. I've been saying it the whole time, that not only is Goku the main character of Dragon Ball, obviously, but it seems like this time more than ever, he is important to the story, not just because he's, the MC of Dragon Ball, but because he plays a massive role in the way Xenoverse 3's timeline is made, because again, he's probably the only character who can manipulate time now. I mean, obviously we'll get some villains that can do that, right? And maybe Bulma has technology that can send us through time, hence all the, big space portals that we fly through in all the gameplay showcases so far. But Goku is probably the only character, like Supreme Kai of Time and Frieza, who can just willingly manipulate time without the use of any machine or outside help. They can just kind of do it whenever. We are creating a broad system for him, so please look forward to future update detailing exactly how he operates. Notice how they keep saying he, they're talking specifically about Goku. That's so cool, man. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see this new Hokage Goku. You know what I mean? Goku, but he runs everything. I've said this before, but he's basically just Xeno Goku, but the Dragon Ball Super version of Xeno Goku rather than the GT version of Xeno Goku. So that's actually really interesting to see that we finally have, I guess for lack of a better word, canon Xeno Goku. They do actually mention Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Daima here. And obviously Hirano says, of course that's going to be in Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Daima are just too cool. And against iconic characters, will legendary historical battles from the original manga or anime show up as playable set pieces? Ooh, I think they're asking if you're going to play as the other characters, but I'm pretty sure Hirano is going to say that the campaign is different now. Within our campaign requires a very clever, logical explanation. We have spent an immense amount of time ensuring everything makes perfect narrative sense, and the way these historical battles cross over is something we are eager for fans to see. Oh, okay, so I imagine it's going to be different from just, oh, what if the Namek Saga, but Cooler randomly showed up and you have to fight him as well? I'm sure it's going to be more than that. Oh, they teased the World Tournament mode making a return, and Hirano obviously can't speak about that, but guys, come on, it's gonna come back. Hopefully when they do the tournament mode, it's better than it is in Sparking Zero. Again, I'm not trying to shade Sparking Zero, but the tournament feature in that game is already dead. It's actually really tragic. How many hours can players expect out of the story mode? Oh, roughly 20 to 30 hours of cinematic campaign content, depending on their pace. Well, knowing me, you know, the absolute goat, it should take 19 hours actually. We're preparing a robust post-launch roadmap packed with community events, drops, and consistent content updates to keep the community thriving. Nice. Okay. Oh, they're also having a roadmap for the game, so that's very interesting. He asked about roadmap goals, and he says, well, you can't share anything specific, but obviously, yeah, they have to plan out the whole DLC packs, just like they did with Sparking Zero, and then while those DLC packs are releasing, then they can see if they can add more stuff, like, you know, if the Daima DLC suddenly shows up from around the corner. Xenoverse, we had to go through this as well. When Dragon Ball Daima finished, we had to stop the Future Saga for a tiny bit to do Dragon Ball Daima's DLC pack. So obviously they've got their own roadmap, but who knows, there'll be occasional times where they have to stray from the roadmap to actually add something new to the series. And yes, they're actually talking more about customizing the living spaces. I'm glad they actually brought that up, because I did hear a tiny bit about that in Globku's video, but we are heavily prioritizing expanded social features. Looking back at Xenoverse 1 and 2, we noticed that players took immense pride in treating their custom character screen like a business card, taking screenshots, sharing builds, showing off their style to the community. We want to lean heavily into that behavior by giving players a concrete interactive space within the universe to showcase exactly who they are to their peers. Will there be any legacy save data bonuses for players with an active save profile in Xenoverse 2 or Dragon Ball Sparking Zero? Ooh, now Xenoverse 2 save data transfer makes sense, but Sparking Zero save data transfer, I was not expecting that. We understand that the Dragon Ball gaming community is incredibly loyal, and many players have spent years supporting our past titles. We're actively evaluating and exploring cross-promotional rewards and save data recognition systems to honor that long-term dedication. I'd be surprised, but I imagine that they're going to do it for Xenoverse 2 and for Breakers. If they do it for Sparking Zero, that would be absolutely insane, but Breakers sounds like it makes a bit more sense to me to do that cross-promotional stuff with. And to wrap things up so players can plan ahead, what is your current target release window and which platforms will the games be available on? And obviously it's going to be on all next-gen systems. That just makes sense. They didn't say anything about the Switch, but just like Sparking Zero, I'm sure the game will release for the Switch later. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, and Hirano says thank you very much too. And that is the end of the article, boys. Oh my goodness gracious, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3 is brimming with exciting content, and I cannot wait to get the next scoop of information on this game. You know what, man, and I'm cool, please send me a message, let me know when anything cool with Xenoverse 3 comes up. Not even just for content creation, man, I've just been a massive fan of this series for so long now. I remember getting Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1, meeting so many new friends on that game, loving that game, hearing Xenoverse 2 was coming out and being overjoyed, and I've been playing that game for about when Xenoverse 3 comes out, I've been playing Xenoverse 2 for over 10 years. That's crazy. I don't think I can make that claim about many other games, man. So yeah, that's a perfect place to end the video, guys. Holy man. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe. It really supports the channel. And leave a comment down below as to what you'd like to see next, fellas. Again, I do love you all. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in next time, everyone. Take care and peace. Bye-bye.